Good afternoon, everyone. This is Winky. Today, I would like to talk about whole interval recording. So, in the following presentations, I will gonna go through the definitions of whole interval recording. Then, I will provide some examples of when do we usually use it, and the rationale for choosing these measuring procedures, as well as how do we usually collect the data. Last but not least, I will show a demonstration of the implementations of the procedures. So let's get started. First of all, what is whole interval recording? It is often used to measure continuous behavior or behavior that occur at such a high rate that observers have difficulty distinguishing one response from another, but can detect whether the behavior is occurring at any given time. So here are some of the examples of discrete behavior that can be observed using whole interval recording. They are including cooperative play. For example, teachers may want to know how many times the students have participated in playing with their peers. Also, the student may also want to measure the rocking chair behavior in class. So these kind of behaviors that without a clear end can use the whole interval recording measurement to see how frequency are they. So when should we use the whole interval recording? That is, when the behavior that you're looking at is not easily counted, just like what I mentioned before. You can measure the behavior by counting the number of time intervals in which the behavior occur. A behavior is not easily counted when it is difficult to tell exactly when the behavior begins or when it ends, or it occurs at such a high rate that it is difficult to keep count. So what are the advantages of using whole interval recording? It provides an estimate of the duration of behavior and provides information about where behaviors are occurring or not occurring within an observational session. However, a major disadvantage of whole interval recording is that it requires an observer's undivided attention. Teachers' interest in this measurement strategy may need to ask someone else to observe and collect the whole interval data for them while they are working with students or engage in instructions. Observing and recording data can be challenging, especially if using a stopwatch, since the person recording must attend to both the timing of intervals as well as the student. Hence, the data obtained with whole interval recording usually underestimate the overall percentage of the observation period in which the behavior actually occurred. The longer the observation intervals, the greater the degree to which the whole interval recording will underestimate the actual occurrence of the behavior. So in the following, I'm going to introduce to everyone that how do we collect the data. So here is an example of the whole interval recording form used to measure the on-task behavior of some students during the academic sit work time. So you will see that a 20-minute observational sessions may be separated into 5 to 10 seconds interval with boxes that are used to record the occurrence of behavior. So at the end of each interval, the observer records whether the target behavior occurred throughout the interval. If a student target behavior is being measured while 10 seconds whole interval recording, the student will need to meet the definition of the target behavior during the entire interval for the behavior to be recorded as occurring in that interval. For example, the student who was on task for 9 of an interval's 10 seconds will be scored as not being on task for that interval. So if throughout the whole interval the students are stay on task, then you may circle yes for the occurrence of that behavior, while no for the non-occurrence of the behavior. So once the recording is complete, the observer counts the number of intervals in which behavior was observed, and the percentage of intervals with the behavior is documented. For instance, if a teacher is interested in measuring staying on task, She may use whole interval recording to measure the percentage of intervals a student is writing his homework, looking at teacher, or reading out loud the passage. If on-task behavior were made in 3 out of 10 intervals, then the student engaged in a behavior of interest during 30% of the observational sessions. So in the following, I'm going to demonstrate how do we implement the procedures. So in the video later, you will see Jimmy's in the video. The target behavior today is staying on task. That is, we want to assess to what extent Jimmy is staying on task during house chore task. Staying on task is defined as Jimmy is getting a clothes or a hanger from the table. Jimmy is putting the clothes into the hanger. Jimmy is putting the clip on the hanger, or Jimmy is hanging the clothes onto the bar. So the procedures are, in each minute, it was divided into 4 10-second observation intervals. And in each observation interval was followed by 5 seconds in which the observer records the occurrence or the non-occurrence of target behavior during the preceding 10 seconds. The observer first watched student continuously for 10 seconds and then look away during the next 5 seconds and record whether student had been stay on task at the whole time during the previous 10 seconds by circling yes or no on the recording form. After the 5-second intervals for recording students' behavior, the observer look up again and watch another interval continuously for 10 seconds. Alright, so now we're going to see if Jimmy stay on task when he's doing the house chores. So now you will see on the table we have prepared a data sheet. That is, we're going to put a plus here when we observe there's on-task behavior for the whole interval, that is for the whole 10 seconds interval. Then we'll put a plus here. If Jimmy is not staying on task, like look away or not doing the criteria that we mentioned before, then we'll put a 0 over here. So also we need a timer to count the seconds. All right, so let's begin. Here comes the first trial. Go. Stop. So now for the following 5 seconds, we can stay, write down the data. So here comes to the second trial. Go. The end. All right, so for the coming 5 seconds, we can write down the data again. All right, the third trial begin. The end. So now I can write down the data. Okay, the fourth trial. The end. So now we're going to write down the data. The fifth trial. The end. The sixth trial. The end. The seventh trial. The end. So now I can write down the data. The eighth trial. The end. The ninth trial. The end. So here comes to the last trial, the 10th trial. The end. So now you can write down the last data. So you can see that out of the 10 trial, there are 3 hold interval. That means there are 30 seconds that Jimmy is not staying on task. And for the 70 seconds, he's staying on task. So you can see that for these activities, 70% of the time that Jimmy is staying on task. So now it's gonna practice time.